Good morning, everyone. My name is Jetsabel Alcala. This is the third year I present in this venue. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about something I'm really passionate about, which is parent-teacher relationships. I This winter I did a TEDx talk with the same title, talking about how I communicate with my families, kind of like from beginning to end, how we experience virtual teaching, and how I managed to grow something really special during this time, and how I would love for everybody to have learned something that they can continue to use next year, just like I will. I'm going back into why I started building those relationships, how I did it in the beginning, and maybe talk at the end a little bit about how it is now and why it's so important that we all try to build those relationships, grow them, and continue to improve the way that we do um, talk to parents and make them involved in their students' education, not just for our district, but also for their communities. A little bit about myself, super quick. I'm a first grade dual language teacher in Illinois, Washington Academy. This is my third year, this coming year, third year teaching first grade with my awesome team. A lot of the stuff that we were able to do and accomplish during virtual teaching last year, we did it together. So it's really important to have um, that relationship with your team. I'm from Mexico. I have 4 kids. I have 2 cats. I am recording from my house right now. My son is in the back. So just letting you know in case you hear cats or a child. Let's get started. Throughout the presentation, I did add some videos which were detrimental to my why personally. I will let you look at them. I'm gonna add this slide to my presentation so you have access to it all the time. But if this is parent-teacher relationships is not something that just came about now because of virtual teaching, COVID, and all this. It's something that has been looming, has been at the forefront of education, in the head of all the teachers' minds and principals. How can we make it so parents want to be more involved and are involved, and so they know the things that they can do? So I put this video here. Feel free to watch it as many times as you want and share with other teachers so they can see the importance of this as well. Two of the sources that were very important to me were these 2 books, Powerful Partnerships and Beyond the Bake Sale. I know at least Beyond the Bake Sale for sure when it came out, it was really big. And just like everything, it dies away as people begin to forget and focus on other things. But these two, if you have the chance to read them, they're really good. And as a Hispanic parent and teacher, um, this with a little bit of tweaking like worked perfectly for our Hispanic parents and our Hispanic population as well. The why do we want to do this? Why is it important to try to get parents involved, right? I don't know about your school district, community, state, but here, conscious discipline here in Illinois and in my district is a big push for that. SEL, social emotional learning, not just learning about how to control a child, but understanding why they're showing those behaviors is a big deal. I know in a lot of districts we are seeing an influx in immigrant children coming from uh, crossing the border, going through all those things, and newcomers numbers are rising, and that is something that we did experience as a district last year. When we think about social emotional learning, we think about kids that are being abused or parents died or in drugs, and it's more than that. It's all these little things that before 1 or 2 teachers would have 1 or 2 kids or 5 kids in their classrooms. Well, guess what? Social emotional learning, we all need to know it for next year because all the kids had to deal with an emotional and a social shock. We have to remember that we went through the shock last year dealing with all of this. So now we have all these littles coming back next school year. How are we going to deal with that? Like, we can learn about conscious discipline and how to implement it, but we also have to remember that the parents have a big uh, place in that social emotional learning of their children. And now with family members contracting COVID, or parents possibly have had it or gotten sick, or the kids have lost families, now we really need to dive into the family structure and see how all those things are going to play a role in the classroom and in the school community, basically. Um, so these are some of the things that I kept in mind when I was, thinking about my kids that I was teaching virtually, and then when the kids came back in person, like, I had to re-examine everything that I was thinking about, and now put it in a perspective of having the kids physically there with me, having to wear a mask, having to clean everything. You can't share this. You can't do that. So, like, thinking about all those things, like, it really helped to have a structure of my why. Like, why are we doing this? Why am I talking to parents 24/7? Uh, One of the things that I suggest is to begin examining your own beliefs. And I know we've seen different things out there. Um, your why when you're losing weight, or your why when you're thinking about self care, emotional care, and your mental health and stuff. So now let's think about all those things, how we deal with that, and then bring it into a more educational aspect. So think about your own childhood. I know we were all kids, I hope. So we all went to school. What would you have wished you seen? How's your experience with your family? Um, I moved a lot, so every school that I went to, like, treated us differently. I had a single mom for a while, and my brother, and, like, having to move from state to state, school to school, that impacted me in a lot of different ways. So thinking back, okay, this is what happened to me. How can I use this in a positive way to when I'm teaching and when I'm dealing with students? How so this past experiences, positive or negative? What were some of your fears when you were a child too? Like, I know immigrant children. I came from Mexico third grade. I was a newcomer in third grade. I didn't know English, so a lot of those barriers in language, like, it pushed us to try to learn English faster and try to blend into society in New York City. And it was a shock to come in and see people from everywhere, which is not what we were used to in Mexico. I mean, it was Mexican where we were at. And now we have Chinese and people from Pakistan. And it was amazing to grow there. But put yourself back in those moments where you were dealing with barriers and fears, and also how you met friends and how they made you feel. Or, um, your religion too has a big impact when you're little. Um, Commitments with families, things of that nature. Like, I just gave you a little bit of things to think about, because sometimes now that we're older, at least for me, we tend to forget about our childhood a little bit and how that impacted us as adults. So going back to that every now and then, thinking, okay, I'm teaching these little kids. I need to put myself in those shoes as well. And as a parent, being an educator, sometimes it helps to think about your kids too. Like, would I do this to my kid, or would I want their teacher to treat them like that? Or think about them in that way, or think about me in that way, right? I don't, the way that I approach my kids' teachers, the way that I want my students' parents to approach me, right? I did put another video here. It's just an introduction to family engagement. Um, a lot of the videos that I watched had a lot to do with that. How to interact with them in a better way, how to approach them so they feel comfortable coming to me for different things. So watch that on your own time. I want to keep this short. Um, a big warning. I even put it in yellow and stuff. Avoid the negative talk. I know sometimes we go to the lounge during our lunch break and we hear all the teachers talking bad or talking good, or um, but mostly the bad is what stays in our mind. And even sometimes with us, like if you have a bad day with the student, you're venting, you're saying all these bad things about their parents. Um, so try to avoid that. Saying it's the kids, their family's problems. Like um, they have to do something in their house to fix their dysfunctional families. The parents don't know anything. They didn't go to school. They're uneducated, things like that. Let's try to avoid that. Come into the relationship with an open mind and a clean slate. We don't know you. Even if my friend had your kid last year and now you're coming to me and I heard things about you, let's start fresh. We're just going to get to know each other and let's see what we can build from there. Try this. Make a list of the strengths and differences and different types of knowledge and abilities that your families have. Use only the assets, so only the positive things that you can see. Their race and ethnicity, you want to jot that down. Socioeconomic, diversity, occupation. You want to still keep all these things in mind because um, from experience, sometimes because they're Mexican, teachers are expecting the parents to behave like this, or because they went to college, they expect them to behave like this. Like, take all those things into consideration and see. Political diversity now. Last year took a big was was at the forefront of relationship with parents. So that's in there. Just because now it's a thing. After you make that list, answer the following questions. Are you using all of these strengths and assets your families have to offer? Yes, no, how can I make it better? Or yes, I'm using it in this way, but maybe I can expand on that. I can use it more. Right? Example, I had a parent that knew how to um, so we were talking about jobs and stuff. We had her talk a little bit about what she does, like with making the dresses and sewing them and fitting them. That's something. I mean, something as simple as that. It was a big deal. The parent felt good coming, and we made her feel important by asking her questions and bringing her in. A homemaker parents, Hispanic parents, sometimes the mom stays at home. That's a big deal. How do you deal with that? What do you do during the morning? Like thinking about all those little things. Maybe they're not cops or doctors or something. How can I use what they're able to do and what they bring to the table to bring them a little bit more in? Question number two is how might you gather information from your families to expand this list? Right? Maybe I just gave you 7 things and that 8 other. You can add so many other things to that. Um, and then next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about some categories of school. We've all know different administrations, and if you've been to different schools, you know that they are all different from principal to district personnel and anybody that's involved in the educational process from school to school, district to district. They're all different and they all have their different ways of dealing with families and communities. So I gave you the four I categories that I saw in the book. Sometimes your school is in the partnership school, sometimes it's more of a fortress. So think about, and why is this a big deal? Because from my experience, come if we call you schools, they feel different to us as educators. So you can only imagine that how it feels to parents, right? As opposed to a partnership school, how it feels as an educator to come to work at those schools. So you can imagine how it feels to be a parent in those schools. So it does have a big, big deal, the school that you work at. And if you think about it, if you're working at a school that you're not happy to go into every day, yeah, you could love the students and stuff. But if you're not happy coming there, can you imagine trying to bring parents? I would feel awful bringing parents to a school that I don't even want to be a part of. So I give you those to think about as well. The first contact, where you're going to get a lot of the information that we were talking about, is going to be your first contact. Um, Make it welcoming. And I know a big push in our school and our district was to make sure you call the parents, send them a letter, video chat, any way that you can get to them before you start telling them the stuff that the student is doing in class. Try to contact them for something positive. So we did do that during virtual teaching. We sent the parents an email introducing ourselves and all our information and such. So continuing that, make that phone call, email, lo que sea. Um, Now we have the availability of the parents know how to use the computer. So now we can see each other before I even actually meet you in person, which is great because I loved being able to see their house, their little brothers and sisters, parents that would, come in and out of the video chat. So that's something that you can even add and continue using from now on. Now that we know parents are trained well. And focus. Okay, so when you do this, focus on the learning of your students' families. What you can tell a lot by where they live. I know that was a big talk with the teachers. I could see their curtains, or I could see the floor dirty, or I could see the table, or it looks really clean, or look, they have a whole bunch of people living that with them, family members. They have a lot of cats and birds, like all these little things that we don't think about when we're in the classroom with them because they're there in our area. Now they were a big part of helping us understand where the student was coming from with different issues or um, different things like that. You want to ask the parents, not just telling them, you can contact me here, you can call me here, dojo. You want to ask them about the student as well. I go as far as like, when did you, are you from here? Are you from Mexico? We're from Mexico, those kind of more relational type of questions. So they know that, and, I'm Mexican too. I have kids, my mom, I have cats and stuff like that. Are you, where do you live in Belvedere? I live in the community. I live like 5 blocks away from my school. So we like to chat a little bit. The kids not knowing where I live. So I see them every now and then. Um, Asking them, the deep talk at the end of the conversation. So what are your hopes and dreams for your child? Where do you think they stand from last year? Like, what was your relationship with the teacher? Did they get any help? Like all those things at the end, making it more formal, closer to the end than academic, but always starting with those more emotional, like where you from, more to relational questions so we can relate about certain things. Don't let your first contact be a bad contact. That is the first thing. They tell us that in school, but now it's like sometimes we forget. Um, as a parent, if your first contact with me, it's a bad one, we already there's no relationship for the rest of the year. And I don't want to say it like that, but it's true. I want to hear that. How do you feel about my kid before they did this? So it's a really big deal as a parent to have that first conversation or meet with the teacher or even the principal or anybody. Um, be a positive one. Negative ones, that's it. You lost them for the rest of the year. Never underestimate una visita a casa. So I know a lot of my friends love to do this before COVID, going to the student's house and visiting. I had a teacher that I work with now, when they had my brother and sister, they came to the house. They came to visit them, and they weren't little. I mean, they were like 4th or 5th grade. And it felt so good to have them come to the house and, talk to my mom and see that my brother and sister live with me and we have all these families. And I always remember that. Like, that's something that really stuck with me. And unfortunately, last year we weren't able to do that. And if you've never done it before, this is your time. With restrictions and being safe and stuff. Visiting, asking the parents if it's okay for you to go. It's just you. Focus on the first visit, like I said, on building those relationships, just focusing on little things, like mostly their hopes. Like, all the parents want the best for their kids. So focusing on that. At the end, you want to talk about things that you want to target with them. I usually say, this, what did you see last year? This, if I'm going to do this when we start. And then, prior to parent teacher conference in a month or two, we're going to visit back. And I don't have to visit you, but we can talk over the phone, or we can do a video chat, and I can tell you, the first month, this is what I saw. So we're going to change our plan of action, and now we're going to do this till parent teacher conferences. So even giving the parents like something to look forward to, or reminding them, this is our plan. Like, it's not my plan. This is not what I planned for your child. This is something that you and I are working together. um, Makes them a lot more involved. And you can tell the difference between the parents that take that seriously and actually feel like you guys are partners, because you see the growth in the student as well. So it's not, I mean, it doesn't happen 100% with all the parents. That's how you know that it does work, because the ones that do take it in and want to be your partners and work with you, you see the growth. Um, Sometimes if you work with a different teacher or a pair of sorts, you can try to go together, and it's just, remember, it's always up to the parents how they feel about it. But it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Especially like in our school, we have pairs that work really close with the students, and like I have my partner, and we work really closely with the pair and the students. So something like that would be really cool, even if you go as far as maybe making a video together or something like that. I added this other video. It goes a little bit more in depth, how to visit, like kind of gives you like a little glimpse into what a visit would look like. And remember, it's going to be different for all the parents. Not all the parents have the same homes, the same family lifestyle and such. So keep that in mind as well. After the visit, reflexiona, piensa, what did you see? How did it feel? So I don't personally just go by what the parents actually said, but how did they look when they were saying it? What was happening in the background as they were saying it? Um, you know, what strengths did we see the parents? You can tell a lot about someone by the way that they speak. Sometimes, and I'm only speaking from my experience with Hispanic parents, by the way that they speak, you can kind of tell, okay, um, they did kind of sound like they didn't finish middle school, and the mom did say that she didn't know how to read or this and that. So it's not, even through the visit, you can tell, and that's looking around makes you ask more questions that are more deeper. Therefore, building that relationship with the parents as well. And always at the end, how can I benefit from this? How can we benefit and work together with what they're able to give me, to grow those relationships and work for the better of their child? Invite them to be a part of the teaching. So now we met them. Now we're starting school. Now we're 20 days past. So now we're getting into the academic part of school. And what can I do so that this child that can't read or can't do this and that grow? I need the parents to come. I need to train them. As a parent, I can tell you right now, my child's going into 4th grade. As a special ed teacher, I tried to do math fourth and fifth grade, and I really rocked it when I was doing it. But if you ask me now, I'm like, I have no idea how they did math because I've been working with littles for so long. Um, can you imagine my high school student? Yeah, my kids in high school. It was just you had to Google everything. So think about that, and then think about how the parents feel about their new ways of doing things. They can't help their child if they don't know how the child is learning. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, oh, enséñale las sílabas, enséñale el abecedario. Well, how did they learn? And what if they didn't learn? And which is a couple of our parents we've seen. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to read. They didn't even go to middle school. And it's not all your parents, but if you think about that parent and meeting their needs, anything that you teach the rest of the parents helps them, regardless of if they went to college or not. Um, so building training, maybe maybe once a week in the beginning, maybe once a month, something where you could gather the parents and teach them different things. Work collaboratively, not just with the families, but with with the staff, your friends in school, your team. Maybe each one of the classrooms in your grade level can teach math and the other one social studies. Parents can rotate 30 minutes of this, 30 minutes of that, maybe smaller chunks of time. See how it works for you, but make it happen. Think about if, and we've seen this, training a parent how to do this, and then, okay, you and I are going to work on this 2 weeks. Let's touch base after 2 weeks and see where we're at. You can see the parents that took it seriously and the ones that didn't. And we do it for those parents that do take it seriously. If we do it for them, we do it for everybody. We still help the student. You can see those kids growing, and that's what helps you continue to build that relationship and that teaching them to teach the child. It builds a family. It really does. And I love calling my parents my family. The kids are family. We build that structure, family behavior in the classroom. Why not just bring the parents in? Like it doesn't hurt. Um, no more excuses. There's no after virtual learning. There's no excuse as to why we need the parents. You could tell why we need the parents. The parent didn't know how to use the computer. There was no education during virtual learning. So nobody can say that it's not needed. So now we all know it's needed. So what are the steps to build that? Four core beliefs that I saw in the book, and a way of thinking about the parents now, from now on. All the parents have dreams. They want the best for sometimes they don't act like they do, or they show us things that it makes us feel like, do you really care? But they do because it's their child. This is somebody that lives with them all the time. They might be going through something, and that's why we need to think about these things and get those negative thoughts out and that negative talk. All parents have the capacity to support their kids. Yes, this mom might not know how to read, but guess what? They might be giving the student the emotional and positive reinforcement that she needs to learn how to read herself. And then maybe we can build the student to work with the mom, and the mom might be able to learn how to read. So think about all those positive things that can come out of that. Um, Parents and school staff should be equal partners. Um, my class, I should be able to work with the parents, and if I see your student from your class, I should be able to build relationship with those parents as well. Um, District principals should be thinking equally about the parents as they think about us as educators. Okay, if I'm doing this for my teachers, how can we work together so we can do something of this kind of training or whatever for the parents? Um, if that's something that we can ask for ourselves too. It's not just, okay, the administration is going to deal with this. No, what can I think about that I can bring to them that maybe will actually get done? So think about that. Um, the responsibility for building partnerships between schools and home rests primarily with the school staff. So that's us, right? especially with the school leaders. Who's the school leaders? If we bring it to the principals and the principals bring it to higher administrations, higher people that have the money, that have the means, that can get us these things or help us get these things, then there's no excuse to not do it. Yeah, maybe the first time they didn't want to do it, or maybe if you continue to ask for it, and I've seen it, maybe something actually gets done. So think about that. It all rests in our hands. And we should never like say, okay, this person's problem and this person can maybe she'll push for it. No, take it upon yourself if you feel like it's important, which it is. So this is your why. Do you want to stop seeing this? Misbehavior in your classrooms, low academic levels, attendance issues, lack of social emotional skills, and teacher burnout? Then you have to involve the parents. Last year, we saw a lot of teachers leaving education because of internet, because the parents didn't care, because the students wouldn't come. Now we can kind of see where it all lies. And yes, some of the issues were administration, some of the issues were time and family matters and all these things. But now we're coming into a new year. How about we tackle this and see if this is something that helps us personally in our school and our teaching? Be persistent. Don't quit. Families are not just going to greet you with their arms open. Um, a lot of people, I mean, think about it. Would you just open the door to anybody to your house? No, especially if your house is dirty. Like you want to clean it before you invite anybody in. It's the same thing. They don't know you. They don't know what intentions you have in coming and seeing their house. So we have to really take baby steps. You know, make them feel welcome. Make them feel like we want their input. And I feel like all of that personal relationship building with them, that makes so much of a difference, even in the way that students approach you. Um, I had so many students that we were just like the parents and I were just like in love. We were just like, oh, nice hair. Oh, your baby's growing. Oh, look, you have in a chair. Hey, so she doesn't know how to add and subtract, but we're gonna put her here and we're gonna do this and then do you need anything to do this at home? Yes, no, okay, I'm gonna send you this, come pick it up. It's always starting with those relational questions or comments and then building on the academic. It gets So think about it. If you're asking your husband or your children to do something like pick up their clothes or do their laundry, you don't just go tell them, do it. If you're smart, you're gonna, oh, I love your room. What did you do? Oh my gosh, I love my husband. You went to work for me, blah, blah. Hey, can you put it on your list to do this, right? You want people to do that to you too. Not just go and tell me to do this. Like, talk me up a little bit, like make me feel like you care about my feelings and then ask for things, right? It's the same thing. And this one is so important because it makes all the difference in a teacher wanting to come to work with students and teachers that don't. All the things, all your whys, that's why it's important. I did add another video at the end. All the videos, they were so helpful in the beginning. um, I've been doing this for 2 years and I've done it to a certain extent, and last year it feels like it all, like you put everything under a microscope, all your feelings, all the things that you did before. It was just like, okay, I did not do this very well, or wow, this thing that I was doing, I need to do it a lot more now. So watch the videos during on your own times. I jotted down a whole bunch of notes that helped me last year build those relationships. And I even now I'm teaching summer school. I see those parents from the year before and last year, and it's just such a different vibe and like a different relationship when you talk to them. And even seeing the kids in the hallways, like it doesn't compare to years where I've had bad relationships with their parents, and I mean, I'm not perfect, right? And we've all done it without knowing. We've broken down relationships with parents, and we've seen how that affected our teaching, not on purpose, but that relationship just never built with those students. So it's a really big deal, and it even goes into how we talk to our teammates, and um, all the things that have to do with our education, um, with our daily education process. Honestly, like it's just a really big part, and I want to make sure that I really try to give you as much as I could. A lot of these things I read, I looked at. There's a lot of TED talks that impacted me, and I couldn't put all of them in here, but I did put mine in there from last year. And I just talked a little bit about all the things that I did. That's my classroom. I tried, virtual teaching to engage the students as much as I could, and therefore building relationships with the parents as well. The ears changed every day. The room view changed every day, and even though they weren't there, I fixed the classroom like I would if they were there, and I would move back, and the kids would see like, oh, this chair, blah blah, or do things on the table, or get a book from where they would, and so when they came, a couple of them that came in person, like they knew what was happening in the classroom because they've been doing it virtually. Having the parents come that first time and seeing them in person, it was so emotional. We all try not to cry, but this one mom that was like my BFF, she cried all the time, but she would hug me. So now seeing her, and she has other little ones that are gonna come to us, and I'm gonna see her things for school and in my community. I know that person. That person knows me. So things beyond the classroom, I'm gonna be there, and I make sure that through my dojo messages, which it's a great thing if you can send instead of phone calls or emails, if you can send them videos, that is so important. I know a lot of us don't like to be recorded or see ourselves on video or whatever. Don't look at it after you do it, but send it. Having that, even just having them see how you're talking about their child and their education, it just makes all the difference. It shows them how much you love what you do and how much you love their child. And gosh, if they can see how much you love their children, like there's no way they're not gonna try to work with you and be partners. And that's my whole the goal of this presentation is to get you to think that way, not them as a separate entity, a separate family, but to think about them as your partners, as your family, just the same way that you think about your students. I did put a follow me. All of these have links to all the things I am in. If you have any questions, I did put my personal email instead of the school one, because as you know, school emails get to you and by the hundreds. So I want to make sure I'm able to respond to your questions or anything like that. Thank you so much. It took a while, but if you have time, please go look at that TEDx talk. If you have any questions or anything you want to expand on, or if you want to let me know how something worked for you that might help me, like I love hearing that. I love getting on TikTok and Instagram and seeing all the things that teachers are using to first day of school, or like meeting the parents and stuff like that. As much time as we take to decorate our room and build all these beautiful things, this is another thing that we need to focus on as well, and make it pretty and build that relationship and be emotional and allow yourself to be more open and all these things. So I hope that I taught you something. I hope that you got something out of this presentation. And I'm really, really thank you for um, watching this video, and I really hope to hear from some of you guys at least, and I hope you liked it. I'm so happy my kids didn't walk around or the pads, so this is like a miracle. But thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from all of you.